Good morning.
Kind of weird.
I think we're on. Good morning. I'd like to call the April 12th board meeting to order with roll call. Roll call will indicate all commissioners are present. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Our first item is to approve the agenda. There is one addition, a C24, which would go on the consent portion. It's approved 2022 Traffic Saturation Patrol Joint Powers Agreement. And then if there's nothing else, I'd be looking for a motion.
Mr. Chair, we could move item 18 off the consent and place it under the public works agenda.
Okay, we can do that. Okay, any other ones or any other changes?
I think this one,
Yeah, I think,
that goes with Public Works.
yeah, that'll go with Public
18.
Works. There's a G1B that I believe Jody will talk about too, once we get that far. All right, otherwise, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the regular agenda.
So moved.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Clark.
I'll second it with those amendments.
Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
The only change was 18? Did I
Yeah,
get that?
18 will get pulled and
That's
put in.
it?
Yep.
Okay.
And then we added C24, Lee, which should have been on your desk.
All right.
Okay, next up, we have the Public Access Forum. Anyone wishing to speak to the board today on any item not found on our agenda, may step up to the microphone, state your name and address. It's usually limited to 3 to 4 minutes, and the county board will not engage in the discussion, but will refer it to the appropriate county department. And a citizen may speak at the Public Access Forum only once per month. Is there anyone here wishing to speak at the Public Access Forum? Please step up to the microphone, state your name and address, please.
My name is Walter Morehouse. Address is 17668 Raymond Avenue, Richmond, Minnesota. We're on Browns Lake. And reason I'm here, I brought you all packets from Browns Lake about the work we've done down there. And it's so much that I'm not even going to go. I brought all the information for you folks to review if you would and pass it on. We have a very bad problem down there with our lake. We've been working on it since 1972. The pollution has gone way far beyond. We're known as an endangered lake. We've had studies done. I do want to hold one report up here that I didn't give you a copy of. It's over 100 and some pages long. We've been spending money and funds since 1972 to help clean our lake up. This report that was done last year, both by the Soil and Water Conservation and also the DNR, it was supposed to be to look at the ditches and the runoff and everything coming in. There's a feedlot at the top of in our area. The feedlot is at the top of the hill, okay? And everything goes down into the lake, absolutely everything. We even have a culvert that the county approved back about 30 years ago that's 20 inches in diameter that runs straight into our lake. And nobody seems to want to do anything about it. And I know all this is going to be referred, but I guess what I'm asking, I want to get Jeff involved in it. We know everything refers to the PCA. The PCA has been totally uncooperative about everything. There's another permit that was published in a Cold Spring Record last week. The dairy farm we're talking about is asking for another application to expand the herd from the current 2,000 up to another 1,700 or 2,000 animals. He's already over-injecting. I have given you a packet of pictures. In that packet, you'll see that there's dirt, and on top of the dirt, there's a lot of water. When they inject them in liquid manure, it's supposed to go down 18 inches, and there's supposed to be nothing on top of the soil. As you can see by the pictures, you can swim or have ducks on top of the soil. He injects improperly. He's not only a farmer, a large farmer, but he also has an injection permit, and he's also been approved by the PCA. He's also violated the Cold Spring Brewery has taken down yeast and dumped into his lagoons. They got cited on it. He has contracts with several creameries where they bring high-strength wastewater. Is anybody familiar with high-strength wastewater? That's the wastewater that's not allowed to be put into city systems, and they actually haul semi-loads. And Dr. Perry, who's a veterinarian that lives about a half a mile from this farm, when you get the smell and the odor coming off the lagoons, it doesn't smell like what we call, excuse the language, cow shit. It does not smell like it. I'm a farm boy, okay? This stuff is terrible. It smells nothing like this. And please understand, this isn't, we're not against farming. We love farming. We love our cows. We love everything. But we like things to be done according to what they're allowed to have done. And there's been lots of violations on this, but they're putting, I'm talking thousands and thousands of gallons into this lagoon on top of this. He's run out of area. He's bought all the farms around him. He's running out of area to get rid of this liquid manure. He over-injects on liquid manure. We have got pictures. We've seen him. He drives miles in the wintertime to disperse of this liquid manure, and now he's applying for another 1,700 cattle on this farm. And his brother has a farm next door across the road, and they built some barns over there a couple of years ago, and he's raising the small calves, and on this farm, there's no lagoon. And what they're doing is piling up all the manure on the back of the barns. And in those pictures, there's another little stream that runs down there. And when this barn was approved, I talked to the county and I said, well, how did they get a permit, to build a barn here? Because we were not notified. So they built 2 huge barns, and they came, and this gal from the county approved this project because the PCA in Minneapolis was too busy to get up here. And at the end of the conversation, I said, well, what about that creek behind the building? Her first thing in response to me was, what creek? Well, there's a little creek that runs down, and when we got all that rainwater here a couple weeks ago, it came right smack down the ditch and right smack down into the lake. So we really need the help from, I know if you dictate or move this on to other deals, we get no help from the PCA. We're going to fight the PCA on this one. We're really going to fight them. There's also relatives involved in this with the PCA. There's all kinds of things. Basically, folks, it stinks. And it stinks to high heaven. And as I said, we don't want to cause anybody any problems. But you know what? Our lake is polluted. We're on the endangered lake. I've been on that lake 44 years. When I moved there, I could take my kids water skiing. I could, we didn't have the weeds. You could see the bottom of the lake. We spend $25,000, $30,000 now treating our lake every year with chemical, which I don't like to treat with chemical, but we have to. But we still can't kill the weeds because the DNR only lets us do like 20% of a 350-acre land where we have curlyleaf going crazy. We have to start and stop our motors from the shoreline out 50, 60, 80 feet to get the weeds off our motors on every property on the lake. And it's doing nothing but getting worse. I've used my time up, folks. Please, we would love to invite the commissioners to come out at our expense and have dinner, meals. Jeff, we want to get together with you. And I really appreciate the time. I have another member, property owner that's here that'd like to speak with you folks, but I thank you very kindly. You're wonderful, and thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Nikki Anderson. I live at 17676 Raymond Avenue in Richmond. Make no mistake, I had no idea where to start when I read the public notice regarding the NPDES permit application for Twin Spruce Farms. After deciding to speak to the board, I did a little research. While this doesn't concern your practices, I thought you should know that the MPCA lists permit applications on their website with a place to voice your concerns, report violations, and request case hearings. And you may find it interesting to know that I could not find any such information for the permit we are here about today. Twin Spruce Farms has been a concern for us as lake property owners and neighbors of the farm. Our primary concern, of course, is our lake quality. The air quality is secondary. We had a study done in 2020 regarding the North Browns Lake upland treatment, gully, and stabilization. I did not print a copy. That is the copy that Walter previously spoke of and showed you. In the zip drives provided, there is a copy of that report on that zip drive. After that study, the farm was observed placing drain tile in his field, leading directly into a creek that feeds our lake. And what he did with that drain tile would completely bypass any mitigation efforts on our end to address the issues in that report. It appears based on that, anything we do isn't going to matter. Each year we see the fields plowed closer and closer to the creeks, thus creating more opportunity for runoff. I do have pictures that I attached of where you can see where he placed his drain tile and where it goes directly into the creek. Aside from the placement of the drain tile, every year when manure is injected, it is visibly ponding or pooling on the surface, as evidenced in the photos provided. While I understand it's their right to inject and it reduces some of the setbacks from sensitive areas per the NPDES permit, I don't believe when liquid manure is pooling at the surface that it should be acceptable to follow the setbacks of injecting, since at this point it is no different than placing solids on top of the soil. It should actually be seen as more damaging since it would more easily run off as a liquid. It also appears based on our time and date stamped photos with latitude and longitude coordinates that the injecting is in direct violation of the previous version of the NPDES permit, part 14.5, stating there is to be no manure application in June, July, or August. The new version accepted February 1st of 21 also includes September, unless a cover crop is planted and allowed to grow. I foresee our lake becoming the next Little Rock Lake due to the nutrient loading that's already a problem. Excessive runoff of manure applications does not help the situation. I've also included pictures of our lake last summer. You can see the blue-green algae, which is deadly toxic to humans and animals. Just imagine living here and having to worry about your kids or pets getting too close to the water. Would you want to see the actions of a corporation ignored and a permit granted that allowed the perpetuation of the problem? The egregious actions of Twin Spruce Farms leads me to contest the granting of the permit to add another 1,700 head of cattle to his already 2,000. If we have these kinds of problems now, just imagine what they will become. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak?
Yep. I'm Brandon. I live on 17676 Raymond Avenue. As you can tell, Walter did a fabulous job. My wife did a fabulous job. It's kind of hard. I hunt, I fish, pay property taxes. I enjoy the wildlife. My grandfather was a farmer. He raised cattle, he milked cattle, he raised pigs. My other grandfather, he grew up running creameries. With those creameries, he also then worked his way up to the FDA as an inspector. I'm going to throw some numbers out at you guys today just to kind of put it in perspective. Some things that, other than the pollution coming down the creeks. I did a little study. Each cow, Holstein cow, takes in 30 to 50 gallons of water a day. This kind of goes into the water table of what I'm kind of concerned about. Put into perspectives on that per day, throw that on to 1,000 head of cattle per year. We're talking 10,950,000 gallons of water to 18,220 or 250,000 gallons of water per year on 1,000 head of cattle. Kind of put that into perspective of that's a lot of water. Now, times that by how many head he has. Some of the other things I've kind of came across that I'm a little concerned about, on an average, most Holstein cows, a 1,400-pound dairy cow, will produce 115 pounds of manure a day. 1,000 head of cattle is 41,970 pounds of manure a year. He's already injecting a lot onto his property. My concern is where's the rest gonna go? That's my concern. If there's an area for it to go, great. I'm already seeing where it's pooling up in the fields. I'm a little concerned that this is just gonna add to that. Some of the other things I've kind of dug into, just gonna hit brief on it. I did some looking. Under one website I found, it shows that every dairy cattle to spread manure requires roughly 1 to 4.1 acres of land to spread that manure on. Now you times that by 1,000, that's a lot of acres of land. And now you times that by 2,000, 3,000 head of cattle, that's a lot of acres. I don't know how many acres of land he's injecting on or putting it on. Those are some of my concerns. Like I said, it's just hard. There's some big numbers out there. I feel I made a phone call to Jeff, let him kind of know what was going on. He pointed me in some of the right directions to make phone calls. I made a phone call to Rhonda Atkins at the PCA multiple times. She's refused to return my phone calls. I have called the Minnesota DNR in Sauk Rapids office to talk to a Nikki. She has refused to return my phone calls. I called her last week about this. She's a biologist. When I called the state of Minnesota, that's who they pointed me towards to talk to. Like what I said, I feel this is going a very bad way. When you hunt, you fish, you take very pride in natural resources. And I don't see anyone else taking pride in this. I'm sorry, but it's just the way it is. So thanks for your time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak at the Public Access Forum? Anyone else wishing to speak? If not, thank you for that. I'm sure County Administration will make note of it. And with that, we'll move on to our next item, which is the consent agenda. Item 18 has been removed to go to Public Works. And then item 24 was added, which was the Traffic Saturation Patrol Joint Powers Agreement with the Sheriff's Office. Be looking for a motion.
I think we got,
I think we only did approve the agenda.
We hadn't approved the
So
agenda, but not the
we
consent.
did add,
all right.
I think we added, but we do need
We
to
added
actually vote
C-24.
on. I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll
Thank you,
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Clark, second by Commissioner Persky. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Then our next item is a public hearing to consider off-sale liquor application license submitted by Chris Schiffler on behalf of Shady's 55 Incorporated, DBA Shady's 55, located in Painesville Township. Randy, you have comments first?
That's why it's a public hearing that's required by the ordinance. And the owner is here, and there was a letter from the county attorney's office, and Luke is here to talk on that if you wish.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Luke of this? If not, okay. Luke, if you want to just make a comment, I guess I'd welcome you just to come up and, because I don't believe the letter was in the packet, correct?
Should have been.
Was it? I just looked and I didn't see it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you mentioned, my name's Luke. I'm with the County Attorney's Office. Regarding the letter, just very briefly, when we first received the application, the applicant failed to disclose some liquor law violations that he or some of his business partners had. The auditor's office reached out to the applicant. He then submitted a new application disclosing the liquor law violations that we identified. Since then, both the county attorney and the sheriff have signed off on the application. As far as the letter goes, it's simply just to make the board aware of the violation so you can make an informed decision.
Okay, thanks, Luke. Commissioner Murray?
I would have a question. How far back do these violations have to go to be reported?
I believe for felonies, which is separate from the liquor law violations, it's 5 years. I'm not sure if there's a time frame on the actual liquor law violations.
Okay, so the ones that weren't reported, how far back were they?
I believe they're identified in the letter. I unfortunately don't have a copy. I think some of them were around the 2016, maybe 2019. 2010, 2011. Yes, 2017, there's 2 of them, 2015, and that's all of them.
So they're significantly old already. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. With that, we can open the public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on behalf of this?
I will.
Please come up, state your name, address.
Chris Schiffler, Shady's, Shady's 55, Shady's, all the Shady's is bars. So when we filled out our liquor application, we're not sure how far back to go on those tickets. And I don't know if any of my employees that we hire have any violations or anything in the past. So a lot of that time, I'm not trying to lie on my liquor violation. We hold 6 liquor licenses, 4 different counties. Never had any problems in any of our counties except for coming to Stearns always for some reason. We really get tripped up here. The liquor license was not filled out properly. He was correct. I should have stated those violations on there. The problem with it is they're all different locations. They're all different bars. They're all different entities with different owners. Not all of them have the same amount of owners. So when we come in and asking for things like this, does Applebee's need to list down all their locations on their liquor license? When they come to St. Cloud or when they come to the county, do they have to say, we have 250 Applebee's throughout the state of Minnesota? Do they have to list everyone in the location, all that stuff? How many violations everybody has? Or is that just something for the smaller businesses to make us jump through more hoops? Like we feel like we have to jump through a lot of stuff on that. Everything from a buyer's card of $27 that you have to send in to going back on how far these tickets were. He's on the letter that I got, it was showing a ticket from 2010, 2011. I mean, we're talking 10, 11 years ago, and this is from a bar that I don't even own anymore. So there's got to be some something that says on there how far you guys want me to go back, and no problem. I mean, now I have a printout; it'll be no problem from now on. But it's kind of a long, drawn-out process to get a liquor license, sending it in December, and getting it back 3 months later, and then not being able to open. And we're ready to open. The township's ready for us to open. The town is ready for us to open. Well, why do you guys want to stop that? They're begging for us to come there, and everything is just a drawn-out process for us. And it's really a struggle. Like, it shouldn't be this hard to get something. I understand that I did make the mistake, so I'm not throwing any blame, but I just kind of want you guys to know the process and how it went, and I don't want other people to do this. We're lucky enough that we're big enough now that we can withstand holding on another month. But a lot of these businesses, when they get into them, they're opening them and they need to make money to generate revenue to pay those bills. And it's tough. It's tough for those little guys. So we just wanted to come here and let you guys know what it's like for them to deal with it, and if there's an easier process. It should be a process that you want to help us get through. Like, you want that business there. The community wants the business there. We're not just bars. We're restaurants. You know, we're full-fledged food and kids and everything. It's not just drinking alcohol at 2 a.m. stuff. We're full-fledged restaurants. So we had those little things that we just kind of wanted to bring to your guys' attention on how things are and how they went for us. So also, we're trying to apply for an off-sale liquor license out there, but we can't because there's a muni. Because there's a municipal liquor store that has an off-sale liquor license. Teals cannot get into Paynesville. We're not in Paynesville. Obviously, we're not in Paynesville because I'm here talking to you guys. Otherwise, I would already had my liquor license in the city of Paynesville. So why can't we get one now? Is there a reason that we're not able to? Is it just because of they're probably trying to protect the muni in town? We're not trying to hurt them either, but we're trying to offer another business or another service that's outside of town. So that's what I have for you. Thank you very much for listening, though. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I believe the regular liquor license was approved under consent. This public hearing is just for the off-sale portion of it. Commissioner Murray?
Yeah, has Paynesville Township approved the off-sale?
Paynesville Township cannot approve because of the
they
liquor
cannot.
because of the town. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So, you're welcome. Thank you.
Anyone else here wishing to speak on this matter for this public hearing?
So just to be clear, the application was approved by the township. It was approved by the attorney and the sheriff. So,
Okay.
and the fees have all been paid. So.
Thanks, Randy. Commissioner Persky?
Randy, just for clarification, on the liquor license or off sale, is that municipalities can control that as far as having municipal liquor only? Is that how that works?
Well, we're outside the municipality, so we're in the township, so.
Okay, but do municipalities have that right? Can they control that within their city or?
They do, in the
Yeah.
city, right? Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay. Anyone else here wishing to speak at this public hearing? If not, do I need a motion to close it, or can I just close it? Okay, we'll close the public hearing portion, and what are the wishes of the board?
I'll move for approval.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the off-sale liquor application. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Got a second by Commissioner Lenzmeyer. Any further discussion? Further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Hopefully we can smoothen the process out if you have to
This
do
is
it.
more of a streamlined process, just to have a little bit less, we have to start at the county, or excuse me, the township. And we go from the township to the county, and we go from the county to the state. And I know COVID slows everything down, but it was already slow. Like, we can't go any slower. We gotta get rocking and rolling. Is
Okay.
there another part of this that I'm into, the second section of this, or not?
Nope, I believe that
You're all
would be
done.
it.
Okay, thank
All
you
right.
very much. I appreciate you guys' time.
You bet. Okay, next up, we have another public hearing, and this one is in regards to approving a redistricting plan. We have 4 plans on the table right now, and Randy, I believe you'll lead the charge here.
Yeah, I'll just make a few comments and then you can open the public hearing. So these are the 4 plans the board narrowed down to 2 weeks ago. I think you're pretty well aware of them. This is a blow up of the St. Cloud portion of those plans, 1C and then 2C, 1G, and 1H, how those look. They're all within 5% of variation, so that's very good. All commissioners have to run under all plans, and you could probably see 1G is a little more compact than the other ones, so that's all the comments I was going to make.
Okay, anyone have any questions for Randy before I open the public hearing? If not, we'll open the public hearing on the redistricting plans. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on this matter? Please come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Ralph Carr. I live at 100 Wellington Circle in Wake Park. Stearns County Commissioners and county officials, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this morning. My name is Ralph Carr, and I'm here as president of the League of Women Voters of the St. Cloud area to present the League's perspective on redistricting. In 2019, the League of Women Voters launched a national redistricting program called People-Powered Fair Maps. The focus of this campaign is to create fair political maps nationwide. It was launched to establish transparent, fair, and people-powered redistricting processes at both the state and local levels. Over the past 8 months, we have engaged Stearns County staff and elected officials to approach the 2022 redistricting process with as much transparency and as many opportunities for public involvement as possible. We are pleased that the county presented 8 maps for the commissioners and the public to consider, and that those maps were easily accessible on the county website. We like the fact that the commissioners had a chance to discuss the maps and come to a consensus to reduce the number to 4 well before the redistricting deadline. It makes sense that the combined populations of St. Cloud and Wake Park, which form the diverse urban core of the St. Cloud area, will have 2 county commissioner positions, that there will be 1 predominantly suburban district and 2 districts in the agricultural heart of Stearns County under all 4 maps. We note that all 4 maps have the same boundaries for Commissioner District 2, a predominantly suburban district anchored by Sartell and St. Joseph, the fastest growing part of the county. Ideally, this district should be somewhat underpopulated to allow for natural growth, some of which has already occurred in the past 2 years since the census was conducted. Yet this district is already overpopulated based on 2020 numbers. We have a proposal for this that involves a simple three-way swap to deal with this issue. If you start with map 1G as a guideline, we suggest that you remove all of Brockway Township, including the city of St. Stephen, from District 2 to District 5. This would transfer 2,907 persons in a largely rural area to District 5. This would put District 2 at about 29,700, but this could be tweaked upward over 30,000 just by putting College Township, Precinct 2, that is the St. John's University campus, into District 2. That's the little tiny box at the northeast corner of Collegeville Township. That would add back, well, it's a transient population, so how many it would add depends on what time of year, but when it's fully staffed would be about 1,700 persons into District 2, creating a net drop of 1,200 persons from the current District 2 map. Districts 3 and 5 would need to be rebalanced, for example, by moving a couple of small townships like Farming and St. Martin from District 5 to District 3. In this way, both Districts 2 and 4, which are the most likely to experience large growth, would be somewhat unpopulated by 2020 census counts, while Districts 1, 3, and 5 would be somewhat overpopulated. Finally, we would like to have the board consider the possibility of increasing the county board size from 5 to 7 members, which is allowed for counties with more than 100,000 members under Minnesota statutes. Given the increasing diversity of the county as well as its large geographical landscape, we think it's time to consider this move. In conclusion, the League thanks Commissioners Terrell Clark and Steve Notch, along with Randy Scheifels and Michael Williams, for their willingness to meet with League representatives last summer and fall to discuss county redistricting. Also, a special thank you to Dave Walls for speaking at one of our League of Women Voters unit meetings last September, and to Randy Scheifels for his patience and willingness to answer our many emails, phone calls, and questions regarding county redistricting. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I have maps that have the changes.
And I'll pass
If you
it
want
on.
to just leave them all with Terrell, she can pass
Yep,
them
I'll
down.
pass it down.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak at the public hearing on the redistricting? Anyone else wishing to speak? One more time. Anyone else? Seeing no one come up, we'll close the public hearing portion. And now we will have discussion from the board. Anyone have any general comments?
One thing I'll just mention is besides picking a map today, we do have to determine terms also, and two districts would need to have 2-year terms.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Clark?
I'm trying to process the information we just got. I don't know, since you just got it as well too, Randy, if you have any thoughts about what was just said.
Well, it would be a whole nother map, and we'd have to look
Right.
at it. You know, at this point, I don't know when introducing another map is necessarily wise. You know, these maps, the 8 and the 4 have been viewed by the public, and this is the opportunity to look at those, to do a new map at this point and not have it subject to a public hearing. I don't know if that's wise.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have it a little bit earlier, because I
Right.
could have contemplated a little more of the change, but Commissioner Mergen?
As I understood this, when they presented this one, okay, I understand Brockway over to 5 and the College, St. John's University area over to District 2. But then, as I understood it, they're talking about the city of St. Martin and city farming to District 5 or District 3.
Right.
And that wouldn't be legal, right? Am I correct on that? Because it wouldn't be contiguous? If you just took the city limits or the village limits in farming's case?
I think what he has would still be contiguous. I don't know what the numbers would all come out at, and it would certainly be a different looking map, so.
I think, because St. Martin would, on G, is just, you're touching St. Martin.
Okay,
right?
St. Martin might be contiguous, but
Yeah,
farming.
Farming would be in it already, right? I don't know where farming,
Yeah, farming would not be contiguous, I'm pretty sure.
yeah, because farming is a little further north than St. Martin.
Mm-hmm.
It would have to be the whole township.
Right.
As I understand it, the redistricting regulations, one of the aspects that drives that is the result of the most recent census, the decennial, I guess, census we just went through. So in terms of populations involving more temporary residents, such as heavy student populations, that's hard to anticipate. I understand the point that he's making, but my crystal ball in terms of growth is the 110 volt model. If I had the 220 volt model, I could do a better job of anticipating where things are going to be in the future. So the data that we're allowed to use is just the hard data. And that's why we do this periodically. It happens every 10 years, and we do the best we can with the information we've got. So far, the best suggestion I've heard, and I've heard it echoed now a couple of times. I first heard it from Jeff Mergen, was the concept of 2 urban districts, 2 rural districts, and 1 swing district, which would be District 2. So the subsequent models that we've been considering are pretty much derivatives of that concept. So in terms of falling in love with one option or one way of doing this, I don't have a strong preference. They're not that much different, folks.
I guess I myself would like to see us maybe move forward with Plan 1G. I think it just kind of blocks everything off a little better than some of the other ones. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, that's the most compact one.
Right.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Persky.
Yeah, I think Mr. Carr's point is well taken. However, I do like 1G as well. One thing in particular with District 5, the population is maybe the least, but the land mass is the greatest. And so therefore that creates an issue in and of itself as well. And so that, when you talk to your constituents, you're covering such a broad-based area that oftentimes, individuals are spread all the way across the entire district, opposed to being condensed, into a small area. So, the ability to address those issues, it can be difficult, again, because of the size of the mass that you have there, so. Randy, I was just curious, just the population of St. Joe Township, you don't have that handy, do you? Dave, do you have that? Okay.
So,
Yeah, okay. It's in St. Joe. All right.
St. Joe Township.
and he
St.
looked
Joe
at about,
Township, 946.
What is it?
946.
The issue with St. Joe Township is the city and the township are doing a lot of annexing, and you
Oh,
have
yeah,
to
yeah,
take both at a block, pretty much.
Yeah, that
To
could
keep
happen.
it contiguous. Yep.
All right.
But I'm kind of hoping in District 5, if we get broadband built out, that maybe we'll keep people.
Yeah,
And maybe in 10 years, it might
Yep.
just stay that size or shrink,
Yeah, that's true.
along with being able to get more housing. Housing is a big issue right now, well, pretty much everywhere, but it's definitely harder in these smaller communities because they can't, the contractors need to have market rates and yet, a lot of the jobs probably can't support right now those higher rates. So, it definitely makes it tough. And hopefully with, art money and different housing programs, some of that will kick into gear too.
Mr. Chair, and then one other thing is just that Brockway Townships, I believe, will identify itself more with District 2 than with District 5, in that so many of those people work in the St. Cloud metro area. Many of those, that does incorporate also the Sartell St. Stephen Town or school district. And so those, they kind of identify themselves as one group.
Okay. Anyone care to make a motion then?
I'll make a motion to adopt Plan 1G.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Lenzmeyer, a second by Commissioner Clark.
Probably rue the day I do that, but that's how it goes.
Any further discussion besides that? Commissioner Morgan?
I guess I'm fine with that.
So just to be clear, that's the resolution that you're passing. Yep. That represents 1G.
1G.
Yep.
Okay.
That quick enough for you, Randy?
Yes, that's great.
Okay.
I'm relieved.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Then we need to go on to the second part of that.
Terms,
Is
yes.
the terms.
So two commissioner districts would need to have a 2-year term. And we can pick names or terms out of a hat, or if anybody's interested in volunteering, or however you'd like to.
I guess
Commissioner
I'd like
Bergen?
another couple of weeks to think about it and got some discussion going on. Is that possible?
Or is there, well,
If you'd like to continue this for 2 weeks, we don't have a problem with that.
maybe, is there any volunteers for the because we would need two-year candidates. I mean, if we have at least 2 that would volunteer now, we could probably still make the decision. But if we don't,
In 2 weeks, I might.
well,
From thinking about it, the perspective that I have is that a 2-year term tends to discourage competition as opposed to a 4-year term, which tends to encourage competition. Much beyond that, I haven't really, over the years, made any observations beyond that. I've seen it where people have volunteered for the shorter terms or the longer terms, and others where it was a forced march decision. My first experience with redistricting, that's what happened to me. So I've been on both ends of that. That's just all I've had to offer on terms.
so are you stating one way or the other which one you'd prefer?
I'd like a 4-year term.
Well, you kind of alluded to 2 years is easier to get elected, so I wasn't sure if you were alluding to
But
2 or
when
not.
happens, happens. Like I said, I don't have really strong feelings on it. That's the advantage, disadvantage. So, I mean, who run the whole state house on two-year terms, so they tend to live through the experience, so.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw this out there. So if we don't even have one volunteer for 2 year, does it pay to wait 2 weeks, or do we just draw the names out of a hat, or?
What's your point? What are you trying to get at?
Well, if we have, you know, Jeff would like 2 more weeks to think about it,
Okay,
and if we need 2 to take a 2 year term, so if we have one person now that says, well, I'd be willing to do 2 years now, well, then we could say, okay, let's wait, because maybe in 2 weeks Jeff says, you know, I want a 2 year term. But if we don't have anybody right now that is willing to step up and say, well, okay, I'll just do a 2 year now, then we could just, well, vote or have them draw the names now.
I thought it was remarkable we got to the geography so quickly. I mean, that was a good job, gang. So if Jeff wants to consider this at the next meeting, it makes sense. He was the first one of us to come up with the concept of 2 urban districts and 2 rural districts, which made an awful lot of sense in retrospect. I'm not given very often to voluntarily congratulate Jeff on his wisdom, but he hit it right on the head there.
Thanks, Lee.
And you know how Commissioner Mergen, you respond to that one. I guess just thank you.
I'll forever hold that over you.
Any other comments from other commissioners? I mean, my opinion then is let's draw 'em right now and move on, unless somebody, you know, thinks there's a serious reason to wait 2 weeks. Because if we only get one decision in 2 weeks, now we're at 4, and we're gonna have to do it anyway. Am I right, or am I wrong?
Right, you're right.
And none of us could be here next year anyway, because we're all up for election, so. So, I guess, you know, if that's the case, then let's, if that's a procedure, Randy, then
We can do it that way, yeah.
let's do it
Okay.
right now and we'll be done. Then none of us have to
Get the straws out.
worry for 2 weeks. I mean, you can lobby, I guess, for a position. but
Yeah, I've been through that.
That's,
We have a bowl, so not a
There we
hat,
go.
but, and in there you have the terms, is that what you have?
I just have the terms on here.
Okay.
Oh dear, feels like a game show.
Did you volunteer for 2?
oh. So that way,
Okay.
I have to be able to reach it though.
What did you,
4. I don't know if I won or lost. 4.
or? What did you get, Joe?
I'm not looking.
2.
So how many choices are there, for Christ's sake? That's a,
So Steve, you got 2,
have
Terry,
a
you got
2.
4.
Terrell has a 4, and Lee has a 4.
I get a 4.
Jeff has a 4, that means Joe's got a 2. So District 5 and District 2 will be a 2-year,
Yep,
and the other 3 will be for a 4-year.
and we need a motion for that.
Okay, and we'll need a motion to accept that election, those election results.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Do we have a second by Commissioner Mergen? Thank you. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
I
carried.
see that train a-coming. It's coming around the
Chair.
bend.
Real quick,
Yes.
I just want to thank the participation the League of Women Voters have had and your thoughtfulness. And, you know, as we move forward in 10 years, be thinking about that, and I recognize by us just doing our 5, 2, and 4 years, I think you've got 5 commissioners coming back. But that doesn't mean by next time that isn't something we shouldn't consider again. So thank you.
Commissioner Persky?
Yeah, and Randy, Dave, thank you for your work. And that just doesn't happen.
Roxanne.
And staff.
Yeah.
The entire group that was responsible for that. Because it just doesn't happen. And, you know, you had to put up with a number of different scenarios and also with us as well on making our decisions, so it's appreciated.
And the GIS crew, I mean, the GIS crew, wow, what a lot of work.
Yeah, because there's probably 5 of us up here to make you sweat a little bit in the last 6 months. I'm not sure where everybody was going, so.
I remember the last
right.
time we did this. I'm going to congratulate myself on my forbearance, because the last time we went through this, I camped out virtually in our redistricting person's office. And I made a commitment to myself, leave him the hell alone, you're driving him nuts. And so if he's nuts, maybe I have to take a responsibility for part of that.
Okay, all right, moving on to our agenda again. The next item up is parks. And thanks, everyone, for coming in this
Thanks a
morning.
lot. It's never fun, but that's life.
All right, good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
Morning.
Ben Anderson, Parks Director. Today, I have for your consideration item F1, which can be found on packet pages 210 through 212. This item is a request that you consider adopting the Stearns County Parks 2022 5-year capital improvement plan. The purpose of the Parks 5-year plan is to provide guidance on where to focus staff efforts for new development, rehabilitation, and reconstruction projects over the next few years. It is important to note that these are a select number of projects that have been identified in the County Comprehensive Plan and various park and trail master plans. Also, please note that not all of these projects are expected to be completed in the next 5 years. Rather, this list provides flexibility for park staff to identify funding sources that best match each project, as most of these projects will require funding from outside the county, such as local, state, and federal funding sources. As a side note, these previously mentioned funding sources typically require a supporting resolution, and thus the county board would have additional opportunities to consider these projects before any dollars are requested or expended. Some smaller project funds may be requested through the park's operating budget or the county capital improvement plan. My point is that this is not the last time that you will have the opportunity to consider these projects. Each identified project is assigned a priority and ranking. When prioritizing and ranking, park staff and the Park Commission consider many factors, such as, but not limited to, the number of visitors impacted, the potential number of visitors impacted, safety concerns, and potential funding sources. The previously adopted 2019 Stearns County Parks 5-year plan can be viewed on packet page 211. As you can see, we were able to complete a few projects. We have a couple that are still in progress, and we have a few that were not worked on. As you will see on packet page 212, the proposed 2022 Stearns County Parks 5-year capital improvement plan for the first time is categorizing projects based off whether they are new development, rehabilitation, or reconstruction projects. Again, this is important to note that it is important to note that only some of the identified projects may occur over the next 5 years, as many of these projects are dependent on funds found from outside of the county. The Stearns County Park Commission unanimously supported and recommends that the county board adopts the 2022 Stearns County Parks 5-year capital improvement plan as presented.
Any questions for Ben? None? You know, it's and this is just an observation on my part, you know, there's a lot of money spent around the metro area, which I get it. I mean, that's where the population is, and, you know, that's where the highest use is. And then when you put Quarry Park in, you know, where you collect the fee to, it makes sense to do it, but, it's nice to see at least, you got Oak in there and Spring Hill, so. But yeah, other than that,
Right.
Commissioner Lenzmeyer?
I'm wondering if it might make sense, we don't have to do it now, and do it at some point, to look at our park locations and see if there's any correlation between their locations and areas of higher and lower income, areas of preponderance, age breakdown, like our park, and really an observation of park users. What is the age breakdown? What is the population breakdown? My point is we've never, and I don't have a solution for this, but we've never done or developed any metrics on locations compared to users. Wouldn't we want parks where the folks that use them the most are located? And should we be considering also the locations of all parks? Because not all the parks out there are ours. I mean, the state has parks, cities have parks, et cetera. So I don't, the reason I haven't ever brought that up before is I also wonder if doing all that was spinning our wheels. So I don't know. I don't have a definite preference on how that ought to play out, but those are some thoughts I've had while looking out the window.
Ben, did you want to?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Lenzmeyer, that's a very timely topic, and it's certainly something that we've been thinking about too as we develop
that's
the
scary.
RF, as
I
we
have to
develop,
change both our meds.
right? As we are working on developing the RFP for the overall county comprehensive parks and trails plan, that we'll be working on over the next year or so to complete that. So that's a very good point.
And that might actually add into, you take the western portion less populated, maybe we have to look beyond the traditional uses of the park. I mean, I see you have mountain bike trail by Quarry Park. I mean, if you're out in the rural and there's enough acreage there, could a person do something like that? Or even Spring Hill Park, it's been there a long time, but I don't think there's I don't know how much river frontage there is there, but like a trail or a place to sit and watch the water flow by, or stuff like that. But just food for thought.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Persky.
First of all, Ben, thank you, and thank the Park Commission for their work on this. And oftentimes, we get a plan together, but the reality is we have to keep it in flux and be depending upon what becomes available. If you've got a donor, a willing seller that's going to sell property for maybe a third the value of what he could sell it to or she could sell it to the general public just because they want it in parkland, we take advantage of that. And also just the availability of what we have now, because going out and finding new parkland can be cost prohibitive unless you do have, federal funds or state funds that are going to help with that. Likewise with opportunities, if funds become available for trails, we can take advantage of the trails. If funds become available for something related to water, we can do the same. So, we need to be flexible, and I think Ben and the Park Commission has that in mind, that we'll take advantage of the resources that we can. So, yeah, good job.
Yeah, an extension of the Dairyland to Albany would be a nice thing to have on here. I mean, it gets talked about because I know those bridge abutment, those are expensive, parts of the project, but that'd be a nice segue to get to the western, line.
We've never, from a my longer-term perspective, we've never adopted a policy for this, but it's been the practice to never use condemnation to acquire parkland. We've used it for right-of-way, which the merit of that or justification is ultimately public safety. But I hope we continue that practice, and it does impact where the opportunities are.
Okay, so Ben would be looking for a motion to accept the 5-year parks plan.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Lenzmeyer. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Clark. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Okay, next up, we have Public Works. If we can make it through that, then we have a break after that, so.
Oh, okay.
Is that okay, Lee?
After
Okay.
that, that's fine.
Morning, Jody.
Good morning, Jody Tyke, County Engineer. This morning, my first item is I'm asking the board to approve awarding a contract for a contractor culvert replacement along County Roads 44 and 54. The bid summary should have been in your blue folders. We opened bids last Thursday. The low bidder was TS Dirtworks out of Foley with a bid of $255,472. That's about 27.5% under the estimate, which we were pleased with because our estimate reflected our concern with the rising prices of materials. So we were happy to be wrong. I'm asking the board to award the bid to TS Dirtworks.
I'll move that, Jody, but I was surprised to see that that was almost half the price of one of the other bidders. Is there,
We did look at that, and some of the contractors on this bidders list are certainly, their schedules are full. They have limited, they're smaller contractors. We were less concerned once we saw that they were in lines with an area contractor that also bid it. The low bidder is a smaller contractor, so sometimes they do that just to keep their crews busy. They have bid on other work in the past, so we don't have any concerns at this point.
I'll second the
Okay,
motion.
we got a motion and a second by Commissioner Mergen. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
So for my next item, some of you may recall that I periodically bring back a bridge priority resolution. The bridges are listed in the order that we would like to get them replaced. You'll see there's one still on 2022 because those funds have not been officially allocated yet. We're waiting for bid award on our County Road 72 project. This resolution does not obligate us to do these bridges in these years, but we cannot apply for bridge bonding funds or town bridge funds through the state unless they are prioritized on a resolution. So this is updated after we completed our annual bridge safety inspections this past winter, and I'm asking the board to adopt that resolution.
I'll move to adopt the resolution.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Mergen. We have a second.
I can second.
Second by Commissioner Lenzmeyer. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
So we'll go back to item C18 from the consent agenda. The board had previously set a bid opening date for SP 073090-011, and that's the Corey Trail Phase 3 construction. And that original bid opening date was April 21st. We are waiting for personnel at MnDOT to approve the amendment to the State Transportation Improvement Program. They have had that information for over a month. So at this point, I had expected to receive that approval last Friday, but I have not. So rather than a May 5th bid opening, I am confident that we should be able to set a May 12th bid opening, and that would involve us starting to advertise for bids this coming Monday as opposed to yesterday. So I will ask the board to approve a bid opening date for that contract of May 12th at 11 a.m.
Okay,
I'll move for that approval.
okay, thank you, Commissioner Mergen and Commissioner Clark. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And my last item, very quickly under miscellaneous, we have held 3 in-person public information sessions. In Wakefield Township, we had 5 attendees. In Waite Park, we had 3, including Commissioner Lenzmeyer. And last night in Albany, we had 2, including Commissioner Notch. I'm not counting myself in those numbers, of course. So if the board wishes, I will continue to try and schedule those in Sauk Center and Belgrade, perhaps one more in the St. Cloud area. But I am getting phone and email comments on it. I've put out the presentation on the website and all of the sample programs. But at this point, I didn't know if the board wished to have a discussion at a future board meeting or just continue with a couple additional public input options.
Any thoughts? I know last night went well, really, because it was more one-on-one, and the person who was there, you know, had good questions and
The small
concerns.
meetings actually are, and Commissioner Lensmeyer can probably attest to that as well. You have a little bit more lively conversation with the smaller groups, and even the one online virtual meeting that I had, it was only one person, so it was very informal. It was maybe awkward for him, but it was kind of nice for me to be able to do the one-on-one questions, so.
Mike?
Jody, if I remember right, the Belgrade one was, when we did it, what, 4 or 5 years ago, was one that we had
6.
probably the most, but I know it wasn't a great number, but it was 6 or 7, I think. But
Commissioner Clark?
I was just wondering, Jody, since you are getting comments, whether or not you'd want or need to do one on the eastern side, what would be our best way for us to help with promoting getting people to go and give you some comments? Because that might be the other thing that we could do, just so you get some more.
You know, somebody suggested, and I'm not necessarily suggesting this because I don't know how much good it would do. Somebody at the meeting in Wakefield Township said we should do a mass mailing. And unfortunately, I know what that's like even when we're doing public meetings related to a road project. A lot of people don't even look at them.
Right.
So I am not suggesting that at this point. I may work with Janet Midas and try to do a little bit more social media and website outreach, just to see if we can continue getting some comments in. And the comments have been mixed. So I can certainly, it's, you know, when Commissioner Knott showed up last night, I was laughing that if nobody showed up, I was going to sit and do work there. So it's not like it's a.
Well, what I was thinking is if you give us kind of a cutoff time or something, I mean, I would be happy to repost that on Facebook or something else, just to remind people that they do have this as an option. I mean, at least it's another way to.
And I think if we go through that first week of May, and then I can bring that final summary to the board at the first meeting in May, which I believe is the 10th or some, right around that time period. So if we go through that first full week of May, because I'm also using this as an opportunity to get comments on the road program as well. And again, not a lot of people in person, but I am encouraged by getting some phone calls and emails outside of those meetings.
Commissioner Persky?
Well, I was just thinking if you'd want the Metro people, you know, if we could get thinking old school, we could get a biplane with a drag behind banner and fly over Lake George on a Wednesday night, but I don't know if that would work. But my question.
It won't have started yet, so.
Is on the website, do we have a spot for them to comment? So, I mean, when they are
There's
at
a
the
link,
website, that
so
they
they
can
can
link, so
email
then they can
directly to the
comment. And
highway
if you have people that have concerns, they can go to that website and then give us those concerns on the from the website. Okay, good.
And maybe even doing more social media for a time being, and maybe ramping 1 or 2 up later in the fall, you know, August, September, maybe. Maybe if we get a little more, I'm not sure. Is it too early now? You know, nobody's.
And the one concern is if the board would decide they wanted to move forward with one of those options, we need to notify the Department of Revenue by October 1st.
Oh, okay.
And so there is a timeline there as well. And it would be good for us to know as well for budget purposes. So.
Sounds like maybe there's a little more time, though.
Yeah, I guess my opinion is whatever Jody feels would be the most productive. I mean, if having one more in Belgrade would be something to try, give it a shot.
I can schedule a couple more and then, again, do a little bit more social media
Yeah,
outreach
then maybe
as well.
in June we can revisit again. Okay,
right,
anybody
thank you.
have anything for Jody? All right, thanks, Jody. All right, with that, we'll take a break. Be back in 5-10 minutes. All right.
Yeah.
Order in the court.
Yeah, let's,
Yeah.
All right, if we can call the board meeting
Yep.
back to order. And everyone's back. So next item is environmental services. Good morning, Becky.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I'm Becky Schlorf with the Ag and Water Resources Division of Environmental Services. I'm here today to just give you an update, basically a 2021 summary for the feedlot program, wetland program, and other water resource programs. So for the Wetland Conservation Act, it is a mandated program, and the services that we provide include wetland boundary determinations, the delineations, which are more in depth, so we do those approvals for the consultants' delineations. We issue formal exemptions, but a lot of informal exemptions. And then the more time-consuming services are the replacement plan approvals, the wetland banking plan approvals, and the wetland violations. So the Board of Water and Soil Resources is the agency that oversees this program for the counties, and one of their measures is the number of contacts. And so we report this to them annually. So this chart is showing that figure over the last 10-year, or through an 11-year period, actually. But you can see in 2021, that jumped significantly. So, however, the average for the last 5 years is 874 contacts per year. So, wetlands is not slow right now. Wetland violations, the next slide is showing you in recent years, we've been pretty steady with the number of violations that we've found. That number of violations is 12. The number of formal actions we've had to take is only 2. So a lot of those have been more easily resolved informally. But we've also had an additional 12 complaints that resulted in invalid complaints and non-violations. So there's definitely work involved. Wetland replacement plans and banking applications has been fluctuating over the years. In 2020, we had a lot of banking applications that got approved, and you don't see any for 2021, but we do have several in the works. And as several of you probably know, credits are low in our bank service area right now, and they are going for roughly $2 per square foot, which is double what it was in 2014. And I know the state legislature is looking at the Wetland Road Bank program as well, because that is also an issue. If you don't have any questions on the wetlands, I'm going to move into feedlots. So for feedlots, if we look at the very bottom bold line, or the numbers there, you can see over the 11-year period, the number of total feedlots has remained pretty steady. So we're all told about 2,400 feedlots. And then if we go to the next slide, this is demonstrating basically what we get paid for from the state based on registered number and where the increases and decreases are. So the number of feedlots are declining in the bracket or the range of 100 to 299 animal units in shoreland, as well as 50 to 299 outside of shoreland. So those are decreasing, we get paid for those, so our payment or annual money for doing the delegated program is shifting. The increasing feedlots are those that are more hobby farm and even the larger feedlots. And this is a trend that we've been seeing over the years, and it just continues. And then the next slide, one of the questions I've asked myself is how many animal units do the larger facilities hold in the county? So when we look at the feedlots that have at least 500 animal units on site or registered for that, they are 5% of our feedlots, and they hold 34% of our animal units, registered animal units. Now the state, they have jurisdiction or oversee the permitting and registration for the super large feedlots, so about 1,000 animal units or more, and that's 2% of our feedlots and 19% of our registered animal units. And then the next slide is showing you the number of permits that we've issued, and that includes revisions, which are pretty common. And that has declined over the years. The 5-year average prior to this 5-year period was just around 100. So feedlot noncompliance, when we're talking noncompliance, we often are referring to open lot runoff or liquid manure storage area noncompliance. And if you look at the bottom number again, over this 10-year period, it has decreased. The decline has slowed,
And in the last couple of years, there have been, excuse me, there has been a reduction in funding. And it's not looking at this time like that's going to be coming back. So it does take many years to get a fix funded. And if we look at the next chart here, this is showing you where the noncompliance is. And again, the trends continue. The 100 to 299 animal unit sites are becoming more compliant over time, and the sites that are smaller, 10 to 49 animal units, are having some slight increase in noncompliance. The other noncompliance factor that we look at with feedlots is manure application record keeping. And so we have 872 feedlots in Stearns County that are required to keep records. So that means their field location, the acres applied, the date, the application method, et cetera. We have looked at 519 feedlot records, so 59%, and 37% of those checked do have compliance issues. So we continue to work with them. It's primarily in education and providing them the tools needed for that. The last update for feedlots is just that the state is working on an online permitting system, and they are requiring that for all of the non-delegated counties. So even the feedlots that are of the size that we manage, as well as all of the larger NPDS and SDS permitted facilities. However, they're not going to require us as delegated counties to participate in that. But there is some talk of them pushing for that, so we'll keep an eye on that and the functionality and how it meshes with our county level permitting as well. The other thing we're involved with, obviously, would be the highly pathogenic avian influenza outbreak that's occurring right now, so we're assisting emergency management with that. Otherwise, I don't have anything else for feedlots. Unless you have some questions, I'm going to ask Cole to come up and give you the updates related to the water planning and AIS.
I have one for you, Becky. So on the large NPDES permits, are their requirements as stringent or more stringent than what your department has? Or do you even have to assist with those permits?
So with the feedlots that are permitted under the state or through the state, we do not typically assist with those. They're outside of our jurisdiction and outside of our role. We will go out on a complaint if they ask us to take pictures and such and get it back to the state. However, as far as the rules go and the requirements for those operations, it is more stringent, and they have annual reports that they have to submit annually. They're reviewed by the state annually, and then they're inspected or re-inspected every 5 years.
Okay.
They still have to follow county ordinance, though, so we're involved with permitting them from the county ordinance side.
And then what's the cycle for re-permitting for the county-sized ones?
The county-sized ones do not have to maintain an active permit. So they just have to maintain a registration, as do the large ones. But yeah, the large facilities have to maintain a permit, and they're re-permitted, I think it's every 5 years. But yeah, for the counties or those facilities that are under our jurisdiction at the county, they only have to get a permit when they're looking to expand their operation in animal units or structures, or change their structures.
And the registration occurs every 4 years?
As every 4 years across the state for all feedlots, yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say, I just got one in the mail, so.
Yeah.
Anybody, Commissioner Morgan?
So the large operations, you have get checked every 5 years for compliance, correct?
Yeah,
and
Mr. Chair.
Who does that? Does the
Commissioner Morgan.
MPCA do that?
Correct.
Or do you?
The Minnesota Pollution Control Agency has feedlot staff that will go out, and I just asked for an update on that. It is once every 5 years that they're doing those inspections.
Okay, so you really don't have much to do with permitting them at all?
Not for feedlot rules under Minnesota Rule 7020. We do permit them and work with those owners and operators for getting them a land use permit. So we're making sure that they meet that setback to the residential dwellings in the area, property line, those things that fall under our county ordinance.
Mainly setbacks.
Right. So what we typically have them do is give a copy of the state or the NPDS permit application to us, and then we use that along with our county portion of our permit to issue and review what we need to do for ordinance.
But the issue that was brought up earlier, the county really has no control over that.
So I wasn't here for the public forum, but I have gotten calls related to a facility expansion in Eden Lake Township. And that facility expansion is under NPDS and under state jurisdiction.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, if not, no more questions. Becky, if you want to continue on.
Yep, cool.
Morning, Cole.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm going to give you just a real quick overview of where things are at with the One Watershed, One Plan transition. Just a quick reminder, the North Fork is finished and they are actually in the implementation phase, as is the Sauk River watershed. The North Fork, you're actually going to be looking at the formal plan amendment process is starting. So under statute, every 5 years in a 10-year process, you have to do what's called a plan amendment. And we are beginning that discussion at the staffing level right now. You can expect that coming before the board. I'm anticipating probably sometime in 2023. The Sauk River, the planning phase is complete. We're solidifying the structural work to begin the implementation of that plan. And the one that's currently underway is the Mississippi St. Cloud watershed. We're just beginning that planning process. Now we're having some discussions between the policy committee and legal counsel about the best structure that needs to be set up for implementing the planning process. The other side of the equation when it comes to water planning right now, with the new paradigm shift we're going into, is the Pollution Control Agency's Watershed Restoration and Planning Process, RAPS for short, because we're government and we love acronyms. The North Fork, we're nearing the end of the second phase of the RAPS, and I just wanted to note one kind of unique thing that came out of it. It's unique in Stearns County as far as I'm aware, that the state has now designated the Crow River above Painesville as an exceptional river resource. I'm excited about that. If you've been in that area, you'll note that that section of the Clearwater River, or the Crow River is, I think, is very beautiful. It's still heavily wooded. It's got lots of good intact floodplain wetlands. So it's definitely an area we want to protect moving forward. In the Sauk River watershed, we are nearing the end of their second cycle of the RAPS process. Some TMDLs are going off to EPA. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done in that watershed, not unexpected, but we are seeing progress. For example, the Sauk chain has had dramatic improvements over the past 20 years. I believe there was actually a write-up in the St. Cloud Times about that last year, if I remember right. And then the Mississippi St. Cloud watershed. We're super excited because we're actually having 3 waters delisted in the St. Cloud watershed. Lake Augusta, which is one of our border waters with Wright County down on the Clearwater chain, Lake George right here in town, and then Plum Creek. Augusta and George are being delisted for nutrients, and Plum Creek is being delisted for E. coli. And forthcoming, we'll have some new TMDL reports coming and some new other documents we call the stressor ID report. That report just helps us understand where are the stressors to the aquatic life happening in the watershed so we can move forward with implementation efforts. Are there any questions on the water planning side? Okay, so moving on, the aquatic invasive species in 2021. Just a quick summary on that program. The total budget is for 2021 was $260,000. About 75% of that is spent on watercraft inspections. So that's our biggest component of that program. I have some metrics up on the screen so you can just kind of see how things have been shaking out year by year for the inspection program. The decrease we're seeing in 2021, we believe that's mainly due to slowly returning to normal traffic activity from the COVID pandemic. You'll see 2020 was a big spike. Reported all across the state, folks were just getting out on the water more during the active pandemic. Other thing I wanted to note that our next biggest use of the budget is population assessment and management. That utilizes 15% of the budget. We did 8 lakes that had surveys to detect or delineate aquatic invasive species that were funded by state AIS prevention aid that the county oversees. And a quick mention on that, this program is entirely funded by the state AIS prevention aid. There's no county levy dollars involved in this program. And we continue to see good success. If you if you catch an infestation early enough, we're seeing really good success at keeping it under control so it doesn't spread out throughout the rest of the water basin. Good examples of that are Rice Lake and Grand Lake in Stearns County, where they are maintaining the infestation of starry stonewort right at the access. And then just to close on the program, just want to note that we do have some new infestations that were discovered in 2021. Hybrid milfoil was discovered in Sauk Chain of Lakes. That's actually a cross between the native milfoil species and the invasive Eurasian water milfoil species. Long Lake is now listed for zebra mussels. And then a section of the Sauk River downstream of Sauk Lake, just above Melrose Lake, is now listed for flowering rush. One plant was discovered right along the Lake Wobegon Trail. Was discovered by park staff last year. And there is a discussion underway right now to do a full-blown survey of that section of the river to try to find, is this just one plant? Is it more spread throughout this river system? Hopefully it's just a couple localized plants, and then we can hit it hard with a treatment method to keep it from spreading downstream. Other thing I'll point out is you can see our rate of discovery of aquatic invasive species has slowed over time. We had kind of a boom between 2014 and 2018. That corresponds to when the state AI's prevention aid came online. So you just had a lot more activities occurring, money to actually go and look for aquatic invasive species. It's slowing over time because we're finding, and we're not necessarily finding as much anymore. One caveat I would put on that is we do not currently have in the county a systematic early detection program for aquatic invasive species. It's driven more by local interest. If there's a local interest to be looking, they can apply to the county through our request for proposal process to use funds to do surveying methods. That's all I have on aquatic invasive species. Any questions?
Cool. I just wanted to bring up, last night I was at North Fork Watershed meeting, and they brought up, there's a House File 4274, drainage, where they want to create like a 30-day notice window.
Yes, I have heard of that.
Followed that.
Yep. I'm not involved in that. I've heard of it, but no, I haven't been doing very much with that.
Yeah, they want, if you're doing a ditch cleaning or a project, they wanted you to enter it into a portal with the state, and they have 30 days for comments, or, which I think is going to be detrimental, I think, to some of the watershed projects, you know, especially in the rural areas. But I'm pretty sure AMC, I know, is opposed to it. So
Yes, and I believe the main concern is slowing down the needed repairs that a drainage authority needs to undertake to meet its statutory obligations.
All right, anybody else have any questions for Cole? Commissioner Persky?
Yeah, just a comment, Steve and Cole, I appreciate your work on clean water. You know, for some people, it's painful and maybe even punitive to move the direction we are, but, you know, growing up in the area, looking at the Sauk River and Mississippi River, there were times when I was a kid that was just hideous. Seeing raw sewage, you know, being dumped into the river, just the industrial effects and the ag effects. So slowly we're making progress, and things are improving in the Sauk and also along the Mississippi. So appreciate those efforts, and hopefully it's less painful for some of those folks, you know, as we move forward. So
thank you.
Okay, thanks, Cole. Thanks, Becky. Okay, next up we have administration. Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You have 3 items here under administration. The first one is a resolution to terminate the St. Cloud Area Joint Planning District. It's been 25 years ago that the Joint Planning District Joint Powers Agreement was formed by the 3 counties and several of the cities in the area, in the St. Cloud area. And that was at a time when this St. Cloud area needed some structure, I guess, to help ensure that transportation planning and, land use planning, comprehensive type of planning, but even transportation and other infrastructure planning happens on a collaborative basis between the local governments. And so this joint powers entity was created For a long time, it was very active, and you can see in the report that, you know, some of the things that happened during that time. But in the last few years, it really hasn't done anything. Those responsible for this type of planning from the various jurisdictions get together on a regular basis, but they take no formal actions. And so it's still on the books. We still, for the last few years, I've noticed the Stearns County is the fiscal agent, and we pay for public officials' liability. And we really don't need to be doing that, I don't think, at this time. So we've had conversations with the other entities. At least all of the staff agreed that it's a time to terminate this, and all entities are going to bring them to their governing bodies. The remaining funds will be distributed. Actually, the cost hasn't been very great because once we pay that bill, we actually sometimes got the rebate or refund back from MCIT was pretty much what we paid. So that there is still a little bit of a fund balance there that we'll distribute to the entities. So I don't know what dates all the other entities are doing it, but they're all planning, you know, at their next or either the one after that governing body meetings to adopt this resolution. And so if we all adopt this resolution, there's really no more process that will be taken because the process does make it look a little different in the bylaw or in the joint powers agreement. But if we all do this resolution, we'll just terminate it.
Okay, we heard Mr. Williams. Can I get a motion?
I'll move to adopt the resolution.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Mergen, second by Commissioner Clark. Any further discussion? Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
The second item is action on the federal priorities for congressionally directed spending. And this year it came upon us quicker than it even did last year. And if you recall, we did get funding for the County Road 75 bridge of $1 million under this program last year. And we made applications for a number of other things that perhaps weren't funded through here, but we did get them funded through other avenues. So we were pretty successful with those priorities last year. This year, I did the same. We kind of took stock of what kind of projects we might have, and we really only brought two forward here. One is virtually the same program we brought last year for energy improvements to most of our buildings and putting some solar generating systems on some of our buildings, and all in an effort to, you know, to reduce our energy bill. So that's very much the same. We might have to pare it back a little bit from our request because costs have gone up and we don't want to be too high over some of the thresholds. And the second one is is another transportation project, and that's County Road 120. And I think Jody's still here if we have questions about this, but one thing we did just run into on this project is that we just found out new this year is that at least Senator Klobuchar is requiring that transportation projects be on the STIP, so the state-approved project list. And this one is, we're hoping, Jody thinks we can get a letter by the end of the week that says it'll be on the STIP. But so we've talked about it, and we think we're probably okay doing that. And we'll submit that letter because Senator Klobuchar's application is due tomorrow. Senator Smith's is due by Friday, but we think we can, unless something's changed in the last 15 minutes, we think we can probably, we can get that letter. And so we would submit these projects to Congressman Emmer and the two senators, and Congresswoman Fishbach is not, to the best of our knowledge, going to take applications, but we did put a project in here that would fall in her district so that you could at least approve that in the event that we had that opportunity. And I highly doubt that we're going to have that opportunity, but we did put that in here. I think we found that the applications, they would like a ranking as well, and so we might want to decide which one of these we would put as number 1 and number 2 in those applications, if you're so inclined to approve them in the first place.
Are you talking the energy one and this County Road 120?
120, yes, those two. I did not put those in any ranking. I just numbered them for ease of reading, so.
Mr. Chair, Dr. Williams, is it necessary to do that in that they're going to probably be out of separate pools, one out of transportation and one out of a different pot? And then, you know, if we rank the one that we don't have a chance at getting, that's our priority, but we won't get it. So can we keep them equitable and just, we want both?
Commissioner Persky, yeah, if we can do that, I think that's how we should pursue it. We might be asked to rank them.
Okay.
I agree. We don't want to rank them if we aren't asked to.
Commissioner Clark?
Well, and especially given we don't know who else is applying or what other factors they'd be looking at. And obviously on the first one we tried last year, it sounds like we might have a good opportunity this time, especially with the tweaking you're talking about. And the other one obviously is important. So they're just so different, back to Commissioner Persky's point. So it seems like if push came to shove, do you need us to make that call, or can you get enough information out of their offices to make a better call than we could today?
Commissioner Clark, we could, if that's what the board wants us to do, use our best judgment as we get into the process.
To me, that makes sense,
If
because you
forced
might
to.
see something we don't know.
I'm thinking it might be premature to kind of rank them right now. And there are 3 of them listed here. County Road 157 reconstruct is the 3rd one listed.
Yeah, and that's the one that we it's unlikely we'll be able to submit. That's in Congresswoman Fishbach's district, so, and she's not taking application.
Oh, okay.
Congressmember is only taking transportation projects, and then the senators are taking them in you know, a whole host of areas. And last year, when we submitted projects, there was, particularly under the road transportation project, there was a long list submitted to each elected official. And somewhat less in some of the other funds. But we'll do our best. If the board feels uncomfortable ranking these, we'll.
Yeah, I think you probably have consensus that use your best judgment.
Okay.
See where it goes from there. Okay. Last item?
Last item is a resolution regarding our broadband project. And so we've kind of talked about this in a number of ways, and, oh, good, the map's up there, but will that mouse work from here? It will. So what I'm looking for here is for the board to adopt a resolution that just keeps this going, and so that I feel like I have good direction from the board as we continue this project on your behalf. And so the resolution does a number of things. But first, it suggests or directs me to move ahead with pursuing agreements with the Arvig proposal here, the Runestone proposal here, which I hope we can actually get to cover a little further south, the Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the Albany telephone, and the Midco proposal that covers this area in Rockville. Pursue those 4 agreements, knowing that we have a number of other things occurring in this southeast area that I think will develop further, and also in this southwest portion, there's activity here that's occurring as well, and that I think maybe we can stretch these 2 proposals a little bit. We haven't had those discussions yet. And actually I have interest, I have a meeting, or at least a phone conversation with Charter this afternoon, and we'll see where that might go. So that's the first part of the direction that you would be giving. The next is that you would expect and direct that there be grants applied for where appropriate here in the border to border. And as we've talked about that, Arvig for this large area has already committed, and we'll have it in the agreement that they will pursue a $5 million border to border grant to cover that area. Albany Telephone is interested in applying for a border to border grant for both phases. And we originally talked to them about not applying for this first phase, but I think strategy-wise, it might make sense to actually do that in the first round. And then Runestone was not really prepared to do anything with the first round of border-to-border, but certainly we would pursue an upcoming border-to-border grant with that. And the Midco is we don't think that that's probably necessary to pursue border-to-border. Commissioner Mergen, did you have a question?
Yeah, the part that is totally served there, that's Albany, right? That's Albany Telephone
Yeah,
already?
there's actually both. Some of this is Arbig and some is Albany Tel. But yeah,
Because I was thinking it was just Albany Telephone expanding to the east.
yeah.
Is that what it is? or-
I think some of this is not Arbig. There's more south than.
That's Albany's telephone exchange. is
Okay.
That whole area right there.
Okay.
So it is all Albany, and they're
Okay.
just expanding to the east a little
Yep,
bit.
they'd be just moving to the east.
Okay, thank you.
We did have conversations with Benton Telephone, and thank you, Commissioner Notch. I thought some of that was Arbig, but we did have with Benton Tel here. And they talked about, if there was some collaboration that could occur with Albany. We know that there's these aren't on the map, but there's SciTech has a federal grant for the reconnect for some of this area here. Probably won't know on that till fall, I would say. I just spoke with them yesterday. And then you kind of know that there's activity in here with both LTD and Midco and LTD and Midco, but a lot of Midco in this area. So not that we won't, have some areas that we'll be concerned about, but we're getting, if we pursue these, we're covering a large portion of the county. And so then the third part is direction to continue to work with townships and cities in getting financial partnership to cover those areas. And as you know, I've been communicating, all of us have been communicating with the township officers, been attending some of their meetings, already have some of the resolutions adopted and submitted. It seems to be going well. The conversation with cities really just started, but I'm getting some response there. So we would continue to do that, and then it, of course, says that you will get some reports as we progress along through this further. There's some milestones that that we'll really need to report back to the board on when we have agreements. When it's time to apply for border-to-border grants. So there's times when this is going to have to come back to you, but I think we're at a point where we have a fairly good plan looking forward and need the board's blessing to really to get into the details here and make it happen.
Yeah, and just for like a point of reference with Albany Telephone, where the purple is their first phase, I guess, and you see there's a grayed-in area by Collegeville there, that they actually have a line on Fruit Farm Road, that little triangle there, kind of in between the orange and the purple and the greenish. So they were requested, and they actually ran fiber out there on the south of Avon. Be just west of the college out there. So I think that's why you're seeing that little purple section that Albany Telephone has in phase 1 toward the south there. But otherwise, we heard Mr. Williams. Would somebody care to make that motion?
So moved.
Okay, Commissioner Clark and Commissioner Lenzmeyer seconds. You have any further discussion?
Nope.
No? No further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
It's exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. It's
You
good
know,
to see
that's a good point.
Mike
Maybe
is
we better-
getting good results from the townships and some of the smaller cities. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair,
Williams.
I'm sorry. I want to go back to the federal priorities. If you're not done with the border with broadband, I'll stop. I won't interrupt
Yep,
you then.
no,
but,
go ahead.
Besides thanking you and being excited.
For the record and for the applications, I think we should have a motion to approve those two priorities. I felt like we had good direction. Then Randy said, well, we got an application going here. We want to be able to say you acted.
Okay, that's on the congressional direction for the spending. Okay.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Clark, second by Commissioner Mergen. Any further discussion on that? No further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And back to the broadband, when I talk to folks, and I think you're hearing it too, the townships are in general excited about this as well. And pretty, it's not a hard sell to get them to commit those dollars. Some did not get the ARP dollars though, so that is a little bit of a hitch and we might have to deal with something there.
Did you sent that email about the townships that hadn't responded? Have any of them responded since that?
Yes.
Okay.
Not all, but yes, I was at 2 township meetings last night and I've been at 2 others since, but yeah, and we'll pursue those further. And I might ask the commissioner in those districts for help if they don't come back to me. I've already asked Commissioner Notch for some help with some of the cities.
Yeah, Mr. Williams is doing the amazing race right now, I think, running around. He's finding out how big the western part of the county is. All right, anything else? Otherwise, that's all that's on the agenda besides issues by commissioners. Commissioner Lenzmeyer?
I was encouraged at the last township meeting, which apparently now I don't have to attend anymore. I was encouraged that by the enthusiasm, acceptance of what we just talked about in terms of broadband, in terms of the communication thing, and the appreciation that they had for its potential, or at least pretended appreciation. Sometimes the township meetings resemble therapy sessions, but this was pretty good. So that was a positive experience, and I hope it portends things to come in terms of how this ties into the local economies of those areas. So that was fun.
You could tell they were engaged because they were still sticking around. Yeah,
Yes.
I forget what time I left, but yeah, there were a number of them still
It was
talking to
great.
staff and others. So,
Yeah.
Commissioner Mergen?
I have nothing.
Okay, Commissioner Persky?
I've got a couple things. First of all, the Human Trafficking Task Force, we have a third officer on board now with the federal grant money that came in, and so that's a plus. Also, corridors of commerce. There's a proposal in the legislature to change that, and I think we should see if we can at least encourage a plan there between the APO 7W and the Transportation Alliance, rather than just have the Metro and outstate be the areas of receiving money. Oftentimes that Metro is a 7-county area, and outstate, unfortunately, a lot of the money has gone to the caller counties and nothing has really gone to the true outstate. Well, there's a proposal for approximately 1/3 of the money going into the Beltway, the 694, 494 Beltway, 1/3 of the money going 40 miles outside of the Beltway, and then the remaining third going to the real outstate. So if there's a way that we can support that, I think it would be in our best interest, because at the end of the day, you should be able to hold up that map and see money did go to the outstate, and that hasn't always been the case. So, and you know, those transportation dollars are important to some of the other communities outside that metro area. So, well, hopefully we can encourage that. And then also, I want to thank Environmental Shelley Benson and Mark Latterell for meeting with the folks at Sartell Manufacturing Park. We got a memo, I think, from John Wood today. You know, they have continued to struggle with some issues in that park. Some of the things we have control over, but, you know, they've seen their rents double, but they haven't seen improvements in the park. That storm shelter has been an issue since I was mayor, has not been resolved. There was a kid park there that has disappeared, so there's no playground there for the children. Roads are in bad shape, water pressure, and just a whole big group of issues. So I appreciate the efforts. Environmental is working with them, and they'd like to see their association meet with them again and see if we can move that forward. It's not going to be easy, but hopefully get them folks some support. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Persky. Commissioner Clark?
Thanks. A couple things. One, you and I participated in the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee meeting this morning, and just want to express appreciation for them and for people to be knowing that the national folks have come up with some recommendations, that this group is going to be trying to figure out how we can even build on some of the really incredible work that's happening within our community and partners. So there'll be more to report back, I'm sure, when we get a little bit further, including, honestly, data related. We always are looking for more data, so that's good. And then some of you know this, I guess this is more broadly, this particular variant of COVID is truly contagious. After going to an AMC, our association meeting, I tested positive, and thankfully it felt like spring crud. My husband tested positive, my mom did, one of our kids did, all with not being around each other much. So if you're in a big group setting, you may want to consider wearing a mask during that time, because while it was pretty mild compared to some things we've heard about before, if you can avoid needing to like change all your plans, including going to township meetings, that would be a great thing.
And just going back to criminal justice, one of the judges, they had a little retirement
Yes.
announcement, so.
Pretty amazing. She's done great work with us, and hopefully we'll be able to figure out a good way to keep her engaged at some point, capture that expertise.
Yeah, and I'm not sure when her last day was. I guess I didn't catch.
They're going to be having, I think there's a retirement party for her. What is it, on the 12th, maybe, I want to say? I think we'll all be getting, if you haven't already seen the email, we should be getting an email about that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not on my calendar, but it's upcoming. Yeah.
Okay, hopefully somebody will put it on our calendar.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, I just have a couple of small things too. I think that everyone's gotten notice the NACO conference is coming up in July. I'm not sure when they need registrations for that, if anybody's thinking of attending.
The hotel stuff's crazy, so get it in.
Yep. And then, I'll be gone for the next meeting. I think I mentioned that last time. And then also for CASM on that Monday before the meeting, but I'll call in. Okay. I'll call in either after Lee or before Lee. Are you calling in at the next CASM?
I'll make a point of it now.
Okay. That would be April 25th.
Okay.
I was going to ask you the date, your mind reader. Geez, we spending too damn much time together.
Okay, yeah, other than that.
You got it down.
Okay. If not.
You won't be there, but Joe will probably be there, and you will.
Joe and Jeff will be
I'll have to bring out my worst jokes book. So.
Oh, dear.
All right, with that, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.